Welcome to the Construction Disruption Podcast, where we uncover the future of design, building, and remodeling.
I'm Todd Miller of Micah Industries, manufacturer of specialty metal roofing. Welcome to Construction Disruption, the show that explores what's new, what's next, and what's working in the worlds of construction and remodeling. Today we're going to dig into some great topics as we visit with a young man who is making his way in the world of metal roofing. Our guest is Micah Boak. Micah has over 10 years of industry experience. He works with sales and marketing for Metallion Industries, a metal roofing manufacturer and supplier based in Estacada, Oregon. Micah, welcome to Construction Disruption. It's a pleasure to have you here with me today.
Thank you, Todd. And your podcast disrupted my life this year. It was listening to your podcast that inspired this whole gratitude campaign. And that's why I do this mindset video every Monday morning. So I'm humbled and honored to join you.
Well, and we're going to encourage folks to check out what you're doing because it's some great stuff, Micah. And we'll get your contact information later, and we'll also put that in the show notes, and hopefully folks will check that out. Well, kind of get us started. Tell us a little bit about Metallion Industries, maybe the products you produce, the areas, the customers you serve, what you guys are all about out there on the West Coast.
We're a regional roll former, small to mid-size. We covered the general typical panels for ag, commercial, residential, steep slope, low slope. An interesting thing we did this year is we switched our 24 gauge, just the normal colors, a 24 gauge, not the metallic ones. We switched them to a true matte finish, away with the gloss, in with the matte. So we'll see how that goes. But most of our business is within 100 miles of Portland, and the lion's share of that is contractors.
Very cool. Well, that trend toward matte finishes has certainly been a growing thing that we're seeing across the country, no doubt about it. Well, I'm kind of curious. I mean, you've been at this for a while. What do you like about metal roofing? And, what is it that makes you feel good when you go out and talk to customers and prospects about the products offered by your company?
It simply lasts. The paint's going to fade, right, some decades down the road, but the roof is still going to perform. And well beyond 50 years often. So that means you can have dependability, sustainability, and longevity without having, because you see, I used to do asphalt shingle sales for a bit, and that really made me happy to go back to metal again. Because it's frustrating. You see those warranties touting 50 years when real world performance does not stand up. So it's about having something that you can represent with confidence and deliver on the promises you make to your customers.
That's very cool. And it just reminded me of something. So just this morning, I had a actually as a contractor I was connecting with on Facebook on one of the roofing groups. And, she is looking at a metal shingle roof from the Victorian era. So it's actually on a house that was built in the 1890s. It's the original roof. And the question she asked me was, how long is this thing going to last? Because, of course, as a roofing contractor, I think she kind of wants to be able to replace it. And I'm like, well, you got to look over how it's doing. But, there are lots of those roofs from that late 1800s, early 1900s that I still see performing and functioning just fine these days. Well, so you've spent your entire career in sales, like you said, some metal, some asphalt, some other areas. What do you really enjoy about being in sales as a career?
It's the challenge, first off, and then the face-to-face interaction. Sales for me didn't truly begin until I stepped into outside sales. So in a sense, I've only been 1 year into this adventure. And most of my time was inside sales, which was great for learning the technical side of things. But I love outside sales because it pushes me outside of my comfort zone, like right now, right? So with that, there's growth. And just the other week, I had a guest, Jonathan Metcalf. He was on my GRATS video. And by the way, GRATS is short for gratitude-driven people, like you and I, Todd, right? So
absolutely.
Jonathan said, struggle. He's thankful for struggle. That stuck with me. Struggle produces strength. So if you're not struggling, you're not growing. And it's as simple as that. The mindset makes a big difference.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, it reminds me of, I think it's in the first chapter of James, I believe, a little scripture there about how, those struggles teach us perseverance, and perseverance builds our faith, builds our strength. Cool stuff. My son did his valedictorian speech a couple years ago in high school and was focused on that scriptural passage. And I was like, where in the world did you get that from? That is awesome. Anyway, well, speaking of that, I know that faith is a big part of your life. Can you tell us maybe a little bit about your faith journey, and how does that impact your career? What does that mean to you as you go out in the world of sales?
The best part about my job is that my boss founded the company 26 years ago on the motto, you see right behind me, live every day for Jesus. And it's inspiring to have a leader who exemplifies that high standard. And it personally, okay, first off, it's in the Pacific Northwest, it's countercultural.
Oh, good point.
But that's okay, because it challenges me every day to take up my cross and follow my Lord. What I mean, let's flesh that out. What I mean is when there's painful things, when there's struggles, when there's thorns or nails, I'm to embrace them. And let's think about the example that Jesus gave, because he came with a distinct mission, and he poured himself into serving, and finally he gave his lifeblood so you and I can be redeemed from death. I know that went really deep fast, but it's incredibly good news, and I want everyone to consider the life-changing faith that's available through Jesus.
That's cool. Hey, we will take sharing the gospel anytime. Thank you very much.
Well, can I, quick faith journey?
Please.
So I'll keep it quick, give you the real quick version. So I was in college and I was miserable in my hypocritical Christianity. Freshman year, I had biology and I learned about evolution, and not that I hadn't known, but I learned a little deeper, and I just decided to trade in my dead faith for no faith. And at first it was a big relief because I was no longer dragging Christ's name through the mud, but 6 years just got worse and worse and worse, and thankfully the Lord didn't give up on me. In 2013, I started to search him out, or first it was just something solid, something trustworthy. And yeah, after months of looking and searching, I decided, yeah, Jesus is king and I need to bow the knee. Now, everyone's journey is different, and I wish mine was more like the Apostle Paul's, but instead it's been pretty slow progress and sometimes backwards progress. Thankfully, the Lord has been merciful. I have patient, encouraging brothers and sisters at my local church. So it's just a blessing that I can be where I am.
You know, I think your story is common to a lot of Christians in their faith. You know, maybe they were raised in the church, but they went away to college and things kind of changed. And, as I was coming out of college, I probably would have called myself agnostic, to be honest, had someone ask me. But I think God builds those stories into us, and as he constantly pursues us and brings us back to him, that just gives us the story to go out and share with others. Well, I think it's cool. You and I have connected at some, and I've been watching you with what you're doing on your own social media. Of course, you go by Metal Micah, which is cool. But you talk a lot about gratitude. And to me, gratitude is something that also really impacts our attitude. I'm curious, can you reflect a little bit on how attitude is more than just a mood, but really it almost becomes a lever in order to accomplish those preferred outcomes in life and business and faith and so forth. So speak a little bit about that idea of gratitude and how that impacts us.
That's an interesting concept, and I'm glad I had a few days to think about that in advance, because I think of a door and there's a lever on it. You can open it. That allows someone to trust us to solve their issue, right, when it comes to business. And how are we going to get them to trust us? If our attitude is self-serving, most people are going to sense that. If our attitude is we generally want what works out the best for them, even if it means losing the deal, well, they're going to sense that too, and word's going to get around. So attitude is a lever.
That's cool. And I know one of the things we talk a lot about here is our attitude needs to be that we want to help that customer accomplish what they want to accomplish, even if it turns out that doesn't involve us down the road. Our goal is still to help them accomplish what is best for them and for their home. Well, tell me a little bit about what your typical day looks like. I know it's pretty early out your time right now when we're recording this, but how do you set the stage for each day to try to do your best to live with that sense of gratitude and a positive attitude?
2025 has been a year of groundbreaking, breaking up the fallow ground and starting new habits. And it has been, it's funny you ask this because it's been the beginning of the day that I've been starting with, right? You got to start somewhere. So 5 o'clock, wake up, and then start prayer around 5:30, and hopefully read the Bible too in that. And then at 6:30, it's the why. And this goes back to Sean Foyer podcast that was instrumental. He talks about meditating on why, and he talks about gratitude. So I do that for about 10 minutes and then go into my work day.
Yeah, thinking about that why, it's funny. I was sitting yesterday with a group of our sort of, newer folks to leadership here at the company. And I reviewed with them a Simon Sinek video that's all about attitude and mindset. And, for Simon Sinek, it's always about you got to start with that why. And that why probably doesn't have anything to do with what you're actually going to do that day. It's actually a much bigger picture thing. Well, let's just say that you're having a crappy day. We all have them, and maybe the kids aren't behaving. Maybe you didn't get that big deal you were hoping to get. Maybe you didn't just have one flat tire. You had 2 flat tires on your way to work. I've had that happen before. How do you keep those situations from spiraling you downward into a bad place mentally, and really sometimes even spiritually is where I can end up in a bad spot?
Well, I'll just tell a story. It was about a month ago. I was on my way and I had an appointment, but I wanted to fit in a haircut. So I stopped, and somehow, some way, I still understand I locked myself out. And I was tempted, okay, but no, I remind myself, got to be grateful. And I was grateful for locksmiths right there. I was like, yep, I can be grateful for locksmiths. I called one. He answered, so happy, thanked him immensely, got my haircut. His employee showed up promptly thereafter. But this young man was the sweetest 20-year-old I'd ever met. And he didn't know the scriptures, but some reason he started asking me questions. It was so organic. It was amazing. He just started asking me all these questions, deep questions. Normally he can pick locks very fast. He's been doing it for years, but he couldn't pick it. It just kept trying and trying. So he kept asking more questions. And anyway, our 15, 20-minute interchange ended up being a huge blessing. So those wrenches are blessings in disguise, but God wants us to first embrace them and appreciate them.
I'm curious, was it your house or your car you were locked out of? I didn't quite catch that.
Sorry, it was my vehicle. Yeah.
Your vehicle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that happened to me a while back, and same thing. I'm like, oh my gosh. Well, this was cool. So I realized that my car had OnStar. Even though I didn't pay for an OnStar subscription, I just called OnStar. They unlocked my car somehow from the cloud. That was pretty amazing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. So I didn't have to do the whole locksmith thing. Well, I'm curious, where have you seen, having that positive attitude lead most directly lead to a positive outcome? I mean, do you see it helpful in sales, relationship building, family life? I mean, other areas? Where do you see it really leading to good things?
Well, we have to define a positive outcome, and
good.
That would be responding in a good way. So if the positive outcome is responding with kindness or love, then it's a win-win no matter how the outcome is.
Wow.
And if it's personal gain, as we were talking about earlier, then yeah, it's going to be a win or lose, and we're going to have all these failures because you can't win every deal. And genuine kindness is something that is pervasive, and people, okay, for instance, Joe Talman, how you had on, what was it, a few months ago in September?
Yeah, a while back, sure.
He talks about integrity selling. So I'll just shut up and let him talk. It's way better.
Well, that's a good answer. Joe actually has an amazing story himself in that he had a severe heart attack at a pretty young age. I think he was still in his 50s, and he wasn't supposed to make it. And I'll tell you, going through that experience, because I knew Joe before the heart attack, and I knew him after. And it really changed him. So, as you said that, you got to define what positive outcome is. I really like that, Mike, and you're so wise because you do, because so often those things that we may think define a positive outcome here on this earth, that doesn't define a positive outcome to God at all. And if we're living our life for Jesus, we got to look for those positive outcomes in terms of what he's trying to accomplish in the world, in our souls, in our spirit, whatever that might be. Well, so the metal roofing industry, I've been at it a really long time. I got a few years on you, Micah, but anyway, it can be pretty competitive. Do you think your customers really notice that, hey, there's something different about this guy? I mean, maybe it's your faith, maybe it's just that positive attitude that you put forth, but do you think your customers notice that, and do they like that? I mean, is that something they kind of like, or is it more that they notice, okay, this guy not only has a positive attitude, he actually does things for me, because that can be real lacking in today's marketplace as well.
Well, I'm just going to say that it does give you competitive edge, having a positive attitude. And if we look at some studies, for instance, on gratitude, let's say that aspect of a positive attitude. One was Wharton School, business school there in Pennsylvania. They were doing a fundraiser calling, and they had one group had a manager express appreciation for the people that were doing the cold calling or whatever, and the other group didn't. The group that had the appreciation had 50% more cold calls made.
Wow.
They were hammering away 50. So it creates a joy. If you have a joy and peace in you, if you have that, then people are comfortable with you. And that's what gives you the competitive edge.
And I've always sensed that from you in terms of, this guy just stays pretty even keeled. He has that constant peace about him and joy. Yeah, you're kind of laughing, but you really seem to. But, well, let me ask that. Let me dig at that a little bit. I mean, how do you model this sense of composure for your team at work and even your family? I think we've all seen that if stress enters in and one of the leaders or one of the people starts to really show that stress, things can really spiral badly. Where do you find that ability to maintain your composure?
Well, no, if you were to talk to my wife, and yeah, there's been change, there's been evolution in my life over the last 10 years, and it's looking to Jesus. He's the example. And humility is a key aspect if it's a triad, right? Like you have gratitude, you have humility, you have faith. I don't know, so many triads you could make, but humility is going to be the big one, and selflessness. And there's a song that we sing at home quite a bit. It's a children's song, J-O-Y. J-O-Y. J-O-Y must mean Jesus first, yourself last, and others in between. Have you ever heard that one, Todd?
Sure.
Okay.
Beautiful.
So that's yeah.
No, that's a great way to live and great thing to model and be teaching your children, no doubt about it. Well, I'm curious. We all have those times in our life when we have what I call stubbed our toe, where we didn't model what we wanted to. Can you ever think of a time where that happened to you and it really taught you a lesson? I mean, it taught you, hey, I'm not going to do that again.
Powerful lessons come through struggles and falling on our face. And the biggest one, I'm going to get a bit personal here. The biggest one was early on, right when I got married. When we had differences, I would argue my point. And this, it led to some pretty serious heartache. And it wasn't till 3 years later, finally, when the Lord humbled me, back to earlier, the humility aspect, humbled me in realizing that my role is to love her, not pound her with logic. that was the transforming power.
Well, I like that, and I appreciate your vulnerability. And as you said it, you brought to mind two instances in the early years of my wife and I's relationship, one before we were married and one after, where, I just really blew it. And, you go back and you ask for forgiveness and you apologize for it. But, both of those instances have forever stuck with me, that I'm not going to go there again. That was just really bad. So interesting.
One other thought on that is, I think the reason is fear. Like that's the motive, and not. I mean, we talk about that a lot, but the antidote is the perfect love, which is molded by Christ, that casts it out.
Oh, cool stuff. Well, let's say there's somebody out there in our audience who knows that they struggle with mindset and attitude. Any bit of a top advice for them to try to overcome that? I love how you start your day. I think that's a great thing, but curious what your advice would be.
The opposite of gratitude, we could think of probably many things, but one thing that comes to mind is entitlement. You deserve it. And if we're demanding comforts, if we're demanding sales quotas, if we're demanding things, then we're bound to be frustrated. And when we have the mindset shift that everything's a gift, and I think it's James also that says every gift, there's every good and perfect gift is from above and comes from the Father of lights. So train our mind. We can train our mind. Our minds can be renewed with or without the Holy Spirit. And quite frankly, obviously, I would hope it would be the latter. But
right.
But we can. God gives us the ability to train our minds, and we can literally pick those entitlement thoughts out and replace them with gratitude thoughts.
That's cool stuff. Well, kind of taking off of that, if you were to give someone a 7-day attitude challenge, one behavior that if they just start doing it every day, you think it's going to make a difference by the end of the week, what would that behavior change be?
First thing in the morning, get out a pen and paper and just start rapid fire writing down. For 5 minutes, write down as many things as you can think of as what you're grateful for. And then at the end of the 5 minutes, just briefly review it and repeat that. And I've heard, because of our brains and the neuroplasticity, and I haven't researched it, but I've heard that it takes 21 days to form a habit. So I'm going to just flip the script a little bit and do it 21 days and then be amazed.
Good stuff. Well, I'm curious, what do you read? I know you said start with the Bible or some sort of a devotional reading every day, but who do you follow? What are you watching out there to find, your light and your inspiration in your life?
A number of years ago, maybe 5 years ago, I got one of those daily Bibles that breaks up the Bible into 365 days.
Oh, yeah.
So in the morning, I try to get the New Testament and Solomon, and then in the evening, the Old Testament and a couple Proverbs. That is basically the lion's share of my reading, because I'm just family man and work and everything. It's just like, I would love to read more, but that just ends up being sad to say but it's the baseline for me. And there was one book I read in the spring that was powerful. And it's called The Reason for Existence by David Valderrama. You can get the Kindle book version even on Amazon, either way. But this book is deep. It starts out with, you might say, apologetics, meaning it goes into the reason for existence and comparing it to maybe evolution. But it's very deep thinking, right? It's not like just, and then it goes, the best part though is it goes into chapters and chapters on the atonement and why that is the central part of our faith and how it's transformative.
The Reason for Existence. I have not run across that, so I want to check that out. Thank you. Well, Micah, it's been a real pleasure and privilege to have you with us here today. I always enjoy talking with you. You're a wise young man, and love the way you're willing to share and the way that you stand boldly for the gospel. Love that as well. But is there anything we haven't covered here that you'd sure like to share with our audience?
Our Creator, the Almighty, He is at work. And I don't have to tell a lot of you that, but some of you might not be seeing it. But here's an example. I have a friend we've been praying for years, and his life took a turn this year. It got really hard. You lose loved ones in your life, things happen, responsibilities shift. It got really hard. And we started praying more and more. And last Sunday, he gave his heart to the Lord. And this is years in the making. And on Monday, I didn't find out until like a few days ago, Tuesday, but on Monday, I released this gratitude video on new beginnings, new life, and being grateful for the new birth, being born again spiritually. And just this morning or during the night, I woke up in the morning, I was just like crying, just feeling so blessed, like, because I got to talk to him yesterday for the first time after this happened, and embrace him and pray with him. And it's just there. This is way more exciting than construction sales, the work of the kingdom.
Absolutely. Oh, praise Jesus. Glad to hear that story. And I'm glad you shared that. Thank you. Reminder for all of us, keep on praying, keep on planting the seed, and let God do the rest. He'll do it in his time.
Amen.
Well, Micah, this has been a great, valuable time together. Before we close out, I'm going to ask if you're willing to participate in something we call our rapid fire questions. These are just 5 questions, a couple serious, a couple more silly ones. All you have to do is give top of your head response. Are you up to the challenge of rapid fire?
Do it.
Great. Question number 1. What is a product or service you have acquired recently that was a real game changer for you? Sort of a where have you been all my life moment.
Okay, well, if I were to say ChatGPT, I'd be way redundant. So I'm not going to say that. But I'm going to go on to another one, which is a sales role play AI thing. Oh. So you practice with an avatar talking to them. The bad part is I don't do it every day, but when I do it, I'm never disappointed because it's so helpful to, instead of burning your leads, practice. And of course, practicing with another person's ideal, but sometimes you can't.
Yeah. What's the name of that? Is it an app or something? Or
Oh, there's lots of versions.
Oh, okay.
This is Pitch Monster.
Never even heard of it. Oh, cool. I'm going to check that out. Question number 2. What is your favorite meal?
Ooh, we had all these meals when we had our baby because Marcus is like 3 weeks old. And one was someone from our church brought this big, it was a half thing of white rice. And then it was like this, maybe, I don't know what you call it, Japanese maybe, or Korean style ground beef.
Oh.
It was so simple and amazing. And it was, of course, 4 times as much as it should have been. It took us days to eat it all. So yeah, that was a real blessing.
Oh, that's cool. Very neat. Okay, I'm going to stick with the eating theme. This is a question we used to ask a lot here on the show, and we kind of got away from it, so I'm going to subject you to it. If you had to eat a crayon, what color of crayon would you choose to eat?
Green's always been my favorite color, and you'll probably notice if I ate the green crayon, and I can maybe convince you that I really did it.
Good deal. Question number 4. Do you have a bucket list vacation? And if so, what is that?
It's probably, I don't, but just offhand, it's going to be national parks, right? And
oh, wow.
Beautiful places to camp and all those places. Like my dad and just went down to Yosemite and things. And it's like, wow, where am I? Why I haven't been to the Grand Canyon even. Anyway, so yeah, there's definitely just a lot of places right here in the U.S.
Cool. I love that. And we were blessed. We had a project in Yosemite a couple of years ago. I'm working with some architects now on a project in the Grand Canyon National Park, and love it when we get those types of projects going. Well, last question. What would you like way in the future, because you're a young guy, what would you like to be remembered for at the end of your days?
That's easy. Just someone who was killed for the faith. Someone, if I wasn't killed for the faith, I was boldly promoting the faith. And yeah, it's just been one of those years, with Charlie Kirk being killed. It's just the quote from the early church father. His name was maybe Tertullian. The blood of the martyrs is the seed of the church. And however I go, I want to burn out for the Lord.
Love it. Great answer. Well, Mike, I love your attitude. I love the impact you've had on me, the impact you have on others, things you're doing with your own gratitude videos and things. But for those who may want to connect with you or connect with Metallion Industries, what are the best ways for them to do that?
LinkedIn's a great way. My number is 503-630-7513. My email, it's my first name, MICAH, at Metallion, that's Metallion Industries.com. And my last name, by the way, is B as in boy, OAK.
Cool, thank you. And of course, MetallionIndustries.com is the website. And I never made that connection that was Metallion before. That is so embarrassing. I love it. I never made that connection.
Oh, no.
Good stuff. Well, thank you again. It's been a pleasure to visit with you, Micah.
The pleasure's all mine. I really appreciate it, Todd. I look up to you and look forward to watching the next podcast you have.
Sounds good. Cool. Well, thank you to our audience for tuning into this very special episode of Construction Disruption with our friend Micah Boak of Metallion Industries. Please watch for future episodes of our podcast. We always have great guests. Don't forget to leave us a positive review or give us that thumbs up. Keep on disrupting, keep on challenging, keep on looking for new ways of doing things. But most importantly, have a positive impact on everyone you encounter. Make them smile, encourage them. Such simple yet powerful things we can do to truly change the world. So God bless and take care. This is Isaiah Industries signing off until the next episode of Construction Disruption.
This podcast is produced by Isaiah Industries, manufacturer of specialty metal roofing and other building products.